So welcome to this webinar on ESS BIZGRANTS. As I said just a moment ago before we went on air properly, if you have any questions, can you please type them in and raise your arm or your hand in webinar terminology, and I will respond to them. What I'm showing you at present is the home page of ESS BIZGRANTS. This is a completely new website which we've developed with some new features. It's an explanation as to how ESS BIZGRANTS works. There's a testimonial from David Smith, Managing Director of Smith Inc. and the former President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. And there's a summary of the benefits of utilising ESS BIZGRANTS, not only from your client's point of view in offering a very proactive service to your clients, but also there is a tremendous opportunity for accountants to earn more income through offering business grants services to their clients, because a number of the programs have got work that accountants who are offering business advisory service type activities are able to undertake. So hopefully you can avail yourself of some of those work opportunities. Pardon me. There is a case study as to how you might utilise ESS BizTools in your firm. It's obviously a fictitious business which we've established, that you might be able to look through that and have a look at it. There are some testimonials, David Smith and also Jason Krenetsky from Alton Chartered Accountants. You might like to read. There are some news articles that we've prepared on various aspects of government grants that are able to be looked at. What we're now going to do is to log in to ESS BIZGRANTS. System already knows me, so I'm able to come through. We've now got the members home page. Again, once you become a subscriber, you can read this, and it just gives a bit more in-depth overview of how the system works. What we might do now is just show you the operation of the system. This is a test site, so we have a number of tests that we've been conducting, but we're going to start a new one on a client profile. And this is the key information which we need to insert so that you can follow through on the client. So I'll just put the name of a client in. We've then got a choice to make as to what entity the client belongs to, whether they're a company, commercialisation office, partnership, sole trader, etc. We've decided that this entity is a company. You then have some questions to answer. Do you export products or services? We might answer yes to that. Do you import products? We'll answer no. Number of employees have been grouped in accordance with the types of employment categories included in grants. So we might say we've got 15 employees. Do you have an ABN? To obtain a grant through ESS BIZGRANTS, your client will need an ABN because this program is targeted at small, medium enterprises. How many years has the business been in operation? Again, these are grouped in accordance with the sort of questions that you're asked in the actual grant, so we'll say over 3 years. Turnover, the turnover categories are are also in accordance with the legislation. So this business has got a turnover of 2.1 million, so we'd click on 1.5 to $20 million. Are you registered for GST? You need to answer yes, because again, the grants are only available for people who are registered for GST. Are you tax exempt? We're answering no. Are you involved in research and development? We answer yes. Now, they're the basic questions that have been asked on the client profile. Didn't take us long to go through and answer those. And a junior accountant within your team should be able to input that sort of data for your clients. If we indicate an address, we'll put this one in as Townsville in Queensland. The postcode's 4810. So we've entered the address. You can enter additional addresses. So if you've got an office in a city and businesses operating in a regional area, you have got the ability to enter additional addresses, but we'll save this. What the system's then giving us is details of what we've already put into the system, so you could double check that. The address is there, and the system has automatically identified that Townsville's in the outer regional Australian areas according to the federal government's maps of the Australian regions. The financial data is stated. All we need to do now is to decide on a business industry code. Now, you can enter the business industry code in a number of ways. If you know the code for your client, which is the same code you're putting into the client's tax return, you can just enter the code there where I'm indicating with the marker and just type in that number, and the system will work for there. If you don't know the code but you know a keyword, you can do a keyword search by entering a keyword or part of the word there, and the system will identify some of those and you can select. If you're not sure, you can go on to the business industry codes and find the one that should apply to this business. So we'll just click onto the Taxation Office website. We've clicked there now. I presume you're familiar with these codes and how they work. The first group of them are in alphabetical order, that you can go through and identify the code that might apply for that particular client. And then at the end of the alphabetical index, there is a list of the codes in industry type order. So you can use this document here to go through and decide which one applies for this particular client. Now this client was a steel fabricator, so if we go back to the keyword search, and we might just type in the word steel and then do a search. ESS BIZGRANTS has now gone through and identified the word or the industry classifications within the business numbers that might have some relationship to steel or metal. So you can look at these and decide which one applies. Let's select this one, 22210. All you do is just click on it. And what it has done now is place that number, 22210, over here on the left-hand side of the page, so that you can look at that and say, yes, that's what we want. If you wanted to select any other of these potentials from the keyword search, you could do so. So we might pick iron and steel forging as well. And it is now listed over here. If we want to remove them, we just click the red background on the cross and it will be removed from the potential sites. If we now go to search grants, the system will identify the grants that are currently available. So just going through these, some of these grants are automatically available for virtually any type of business, which is the one which applies the apprenticeship incentives for with disabilities. The same with school-based apprenticeships. The Australian Bureau of Statistics is free information. Business Growth Grant is the new grant that the federal government's released to replace Enterprise Connect, and this relates to manufacturing or manufacturing-related services. Certain inputs for manufacture go with manufacturing businesses. The Export Market Development Grant applies to exporters. Industry Capability Network is a system whereby businesses are able to be listed on a database to be promoted to developers and major organisations, so that those organisations are aware of the capability that's involved in particular areas. Mentoring for Growth is a Queensland government program. There's no money involved, but the businesses can receive assistance. And the R&D tax incentive for a business under $20 million. So if you want to have a good look at these, you click on the grant that has been identified. This gives an overall summary of apprenticeships incentives as it applies to apprentices with disabilities. You have a brief summary there. If you want to check the funding, there's the funding details that are shown. The application toolkit includes a paper on the apprenticeship incentives that you can read if you wish. So this is a very valuable input within this product. So as the accountant, you can read some background material on the grant, in this case the apprenticeship grant, and decide that if that's the sort of thing that you think this client might be interested in. There's also then some additional criteria. Now every grant has got the same process that we've just gone through on the grant description, the funding, the application toolkit. And there's also some additional questions, because what we're trying to do is narrow down and clearly identify the grants that your client might be interested in. So the question is, are you proposing to employ an apprentice or trainee who has a disability and who will undertake a Certificate 2 or higher level qualification? If we say yes, immediately Apply Now came up there. If you go to Apply Now, you'll get the URL which will take you to the government department's website on apprenticeships, and what that will give you is the list of the 160 odd organisations around Australia based on geographical locations that are able to assist in employers in obtaining apprentices. We don't want to go onto there at present, so we can hit close, and what the system will now do is update to determine whether your client was potentially eligible for that grant. Remember, we started with 9, we've now got 8. If we want to see what the decision was, we're now listed in the potentially eligible column. So we go back to pending. Now let's go to Business Growth Grant for manufacturing industries. This is part of the new Entrepreneurs Infrastructure Program. The first part of it's been released, that's business evaluations and then business growth grants after you've participated in the business evaluation process, or after the client has, of course. To be eligible for this, you have to be a company or a company acting as a trustee. The minimum turnover is 1.5 million. Remember, we said this business had a turnover of 2.1 million, and maximum is 100 million. and all applicants must have an ACN, and that was all part of the process that we entered in the first place. Grants of up to $20,000 are available on a 50% basis, and there's a list there of some of the activities that your client might be able to apply under. But generally, in my experience, any process which will improve the business performance of the small medium enterprise will qualify. Funding, we've already talked about that, up to $20,000 on a 50% basis. If you want the toolkit, there is a paper, first of all, on how the business growth grants operates, so that you could look at that and decide whether that's what you want to use or read or make available to your client so that they have a better understanding of how this particular grant operates. As you can see, it operates over 11 different industries. So you could look at that and say that's very good. And if you want to have a look at the one that just applies to the business growth grant for the manufacturing industry, there is a paper, and all these papers are linked, whereby you can go on and check it in other areas for the other industries if you wish. So there's full details included there. Then if we go to additional criteria, the sort of questions here is the applicant solvent, able to pay debts as they fall due? Well, you believe your client is, so you say yes. Has the business been operating under an approved structure for at least 3 years? There's a significant change in the business growth grants from the previous Enterprise Connect grants, and that is if the business was operating as a partnership for 2 years and then it has only recently switched to being a company, if it's the same shareholders as partners, same modus operandi of the business, then the business will be eligible to apply to the business growth grant. So we'll answer yes, it's been going for more than 3 years. Has the company ever received a business growth grant or a tailored advisory grant under the Enterprise Connect program? Now let me just answer yes for that. The effect of that is the cross has come up there. We're not going to be eligible. If you notice, we haven't got the link to the government website there. And if we close now, when this grant is updated, I think it will tell us that we're not eligible, because you cannot have already applied for the Enterprise Connect grant or the Business Improvement Grant if you're going to get another one. So the system is just updating that, and we'll place that in the right area soon, I hope. Took a bit of a while then. So it's now listed that under potentially ineligible. If we decided we wanted to have another look at that, we can call it back up and say, no, we answered that question incorrectly. We'll go back to this questionnaire. We'll change the answer to no, we haven't. We now get the apply now has come up, which has got the URL. If we go through to there, we are going to go through to the Business Growth Grant application form. We don't want to go into there at this stage. We'll go back to where we were. We will close, and the system will now say that that we're going to be potentially eligible. It's just got to go through the motions now and change that around. Don't forget, if you have any questions, can you please type them in and raise your hand and send them through to us. We are continually updating this product with new grants as they're issued by the various state and federal and the federal government, state, territory and federal government, so that the system is updated for your use. So what's happened now under potentially eligible, we have the business growth grant together with the apprenticeship incentives, and under potentially ineligible we've now got 0. So the point of showing that to you was to highlight that if you realise that you've made a mistake in how you've answered a question, you can go back and change it. So we might just now have a look at the Export Market Development Grant. This is for businesses who are exporting or proposing to export. Grants are available from $10,000 to $150,000 on a 50% basis. Within the system, we got the application toolkit. So I'll just show you something different. In this one, we've got a list of the eligible expenditure that your client can expend on. And there's all various sub-limits. So overseas market visits, it's $300 a day. Overseas representation can be up to $200,000 per application. Remember, you'd only be able to claim 50% of that. Communication costs, product samples, trade fairs, marketing consultants up to $50,000 per application, and so on. So that's a list there that you'd be able to use. The additional criteria, there's a couple of extra questions here. Have you spent money to seek out, create demand for, or develop an export market? We might say yes, we've done that. Our client's done that. Are you claiming overseas representation or marketing? We'll say yes. If you're claiming expenses under the marketing visits category, have you maintained full records? You've obviously got to retain full records and anything to do with marketing on export market development grants. If you've claimed 2 export market development grants, have you had a discussion with Austrade? Well, we'll answer yes. Will the business spend more than $20,000 in 2013-14? And bear in mind that has to be lodged by the 1st of December this year. And is the business the principal for the exporting? So answer yes, and obviously when apply now comes up, we know that we've answered all the right questions, so we can do that. And if we close, we'll go back to the system and it will update the grant eligibility, and we can now go to see what has happened. So within the potentially eligible, we've now got 3 grants, and hopefully you've now got a good idea of how that works. It's just a matter of going to each potential grant and then answering the additional questions. You can read the articles on that grant to give you more information if you wish. But let's just now go to print the report. So this report is able to be printed in the name of your client. It would have your name on it, not ESS BIZTOOLS. It's the name of the subscriber to ESS BIZGRANTS, that name there. So you're personalising your report. It's got today's date on it. So if you prepare these type of activities on a couple of different dates, you know which is the most recent one. It then gives you a synopsis of what the grant's all about and tells you what the grant amounts are. There is a disclaimer at the bottom which basically says that whilst every care has been taken, there's no guarantee the client is going to get a grant. They've still got to go through the application process, and that means, of course, they've got to submit information to a government department. As far as the applications are concerned, our recommendation is you table this report with your client, have a conversation with them and seek their approval that you will proceed with the grant applications, that you will open a separate work in progress file, and you will be invoicing them for your services in assisting them to get a grant. When they receive the grant, you will then be in a position for the work that is within your area of expertise. You should be able to submit a proposal to undertake the work. Unfortunately, some of these grants require 2 quotations. The business improvement grants require 2 quotations, but there's no need for separate quotations for the export market development grant. So there's work that accountants can do on the export market development grant. Obviously the research and development incentive, which that client was going to be eligible for. Under the business improvement grant, there's a range of activities that an accountancy firm could perform for a client, such things as a business plan, strategic plan, marketing report if you've got a marketing person, budgets and cash flow forecasts, debtors analysis, human resources, systems reviews, etc. That's all work that we've undertaken under the previous Enterprise Connect grant that could also be undertaken under the current business improvement grant. In a couple of months' time, there's some new grants to be issued by Entrepreneurs Infrastructure Program. The first one is in September, which is availing yourself of links to experts at universities and other technology institutions to utilise people for research projects. And the other one is the major grant which we're eagerly awaiting, and that is the commercialisation ready grant. It will be a grant of up to $250,000 on a 50-50 basis. It's not in our system at present because the details have not been finalised. And there's the export market development grant coming up on your screen now. So that is how, I'll just go back to the start of the grant report, that is how ESS BIZGRANTS operates in the marketplace. The pricing for ESS BIZGRANTS, you can sign up for a 2-week trial to trial 2 clients for the next 2 weeks for no charge. You just have to apply. So if you want to do that, you just click on sign on, enter your details because you will be given a username and password. That'll allow you 24/7 access for 14 days. You can then elect to pay on an upfront payment basis. $450 plus GST will give you 12 months, 24/7 access to ESS BIZGRANTS to use for as many of your clients as you wish, as often as you wish. And alternatively, you can subscribe by a monthly subscription at $43 per month plus GST. And I've just put on the screen there David Smith's testimonial. So while you're just having a look at that, I'm just going to check to see if any of you have sent in any questions. There's a question is ESS BIZGRANTS still included in the gold plan for ESS BIZTOOLS? The answer to that is yes. So if you are a subscriber or wish to become a subscriber to ESS BIZTOOLS Gold Package, which costs $2,700 per annum plus GST, then you will get complimentary access to ESS BIZGRANTS as part of that subscription. I've got another question. Do you have a step-by-step instruction guide, cheat sheet, of how to use the system? Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure what you're meaning by that. Do you want to, person that's put that in, do you want to just clarify that a bit further? The step-by-step process has been summarised in the case study and then on the actual site. And hopefully that will show you how to use the system. So if you would like to type in a bit more information, I will try to answer that question. Oh, I see. Thanks, John. One of our users has said, I think the person means whether you've got to answer yes to get the grants. That's a reasonable question. We'll just go back into those, and I'll show you those. We just go back into client profiles. The new one we just started was Red Enterprises. We'll go back to edit. So here we are. Now, just going through these in a bit more detail then, when you look at these corporate structures, a company is the most common entity for government grants. I've debated this with a number of senior bureaucrats within Oz industry over the years, and they have a belief that businesses are not serious unless they're not operating as a company. I could debate that with them all night, but they won't budge from that. I think in lots of ways it's a way of the government of the day narrowing down the number of recipients. So companies are the most popular, and in fact I cannot think of a grant that's targeted at a small, medium enterprise that a company cannot access. The rest of these, sorry I lost it, the rest of these other entities that you may have businesses operating in, not each of those is going to be eligible to obtain a grant. Obviously, we've gone through when we've programmed this system and have developed the answers to what grants you might be eligible for, the hundreds of them, based on these key questions: type of entity, number of employees, do you have an ABN, years operating. It all comes into play in some of the grants. Now, there's another question come through now, or a statement, I suppose, from the person that asked that question. Thanks, Angela. Similar to what you have gone through today, but in a document we could circulate to staff using the system. What we will send to the attendees at this webinar within 48 hours is a copy of this webinar, which you'll be able to download off YouTube. You'll be able to keep that and play it as many times as you like within your firm. We also conduct a monthly webinar for our subscribers, so that at those webinars you can raise questions and request specific information to be discussed. If not, we just go through the most recent items we've included. But in particular, trying to keep our subscribers abreast of what new grants have been issued by various governments. So perhaps that's clarifying what you were looking for. The answer here, do you export, is obviously a prompted answer. Right? You'd only answer yes if you were doing it. The same with import. There are a couple of grants available for importers. Here you obviously need to answer honestly, but some businesses don't have employees, and there's some grants that don't specify numbers of employees, so you can answer nil without it distracting from a client. But some of the others have definitely got, mainly some of the state grants have definitely got that you have to have under 20 employees or somewhere between 20 and 200. Some have got 200 plus, not many of them. The ones that The same with how many years have you been operating. The new business growth grant is saying over 3 years. There are some state and territory grants that do require businesses to have been operating for a minimum of 2 or 3 years. I get asked a common question a fair bit: what grants are there for startups? Unfortunately, there are very few in Australia anymore. There used to be quite a lot, but all governments have seemed to have swung round to wanting people to have got through that initial survival test for a small business. So you'll find that a significant number of grants are only available for businesses that have been operating for 2 to 3 years. However, there is no such test on making a research and development claim. There was not any sort of test on the old Commercialisation Australia for its proof of concept or early stage commercialisation grants. So I anticipate that in the new Commercialisation Ready grant to be released in November, there probably won't be any minimum period of operation defined there. Export Market Development Grant does not have a period of service. It has a maximum turnover of 50 million. The same sort of thing happens in the turnovers. There are various grants that have got various minimum and maximum turnovers, and that's why we've segregated it in that way. Are you registered for GST? You have to answer yes for that. If you've got a small business and they are registered, so if they're not registered, they won't get a grant. Are you tax exempt? If you answer yes for that, the system won't show you the grants because you will not get a grant for that client from under this general heading of small, medium enterprises. Are you involved in research and development? Well, that's just a question we've raised so that we can obviously link to the R&D incentive, but also it's a lead to us that your client may be eligible for some other grants, primarily the new Commercialisation Ready when it starts in November. Hopefully that's answered that question. I'll just see if any more have come through. Good question. If you profiled clients under the old software model, that was our version 1, do you need to re-enter them? No, they are automatically transferred across to this new system. But what you will need to check, we have inserted the business industry numbers that we suspect that applies based on whatever info. We've inserted them into the system, but what you should do is revisit the business industry numbers is the way I'm trying to explain that, because previously on our previous version the description manufacturing was enough. What we've tried to do now is really zero in on the individual industries the particular grants are eligible for. So you will need to reinsert those numbers. So is there... Oh, wait there, there's a few more questions here. Let me just go back here. There's a question, generally how penalised is a trading trust as a structure? The trading trusts have been in and out of favour. They're slowly getting more into favour with government departments. Most of the bureaucrats in Oz Industries that I've had dealings with don't like trusts. They don't understand them, but they don't like them. But somehow or other they're being convinced that if there's a corporate trustee, it must be all right. And I smile at that because I think the vast majority of trusts have corporate trustees these days, so that's good. So the Entrepreneurs Infrastructure Grant is allowing corporate trustees for the business improvement grant. I anticipate that the research component and the commercialisation ready component, when they're announced in September and November respectively, will also allow corporate trustees. As for the other grants, we're looking at it very closely. I just can't recall the details off the top of my head, but there's a number of grants that just say companies, and if that's what they're described as, that's how we're setting this system up to obviously record what the government department that's involved has done it. It's very difficult with a lot of these because around Australia there is probably over 80, maybe 100 different departments that are writing grants these days. At one stage in the federal government they tried to restrict all grants to Oz industry, but that's well and truly gone these days. You've got various government departments issuing grants, and that means there's a lot of different people writing the grants, and I think in some cases we're getting their own peculiar preferences and prejudice coming through in how they document these grants that they then give to a minister to take to Parliament, and we're then caught with it. And that's why this whole process is so complicated. We will summarise the questions and the answers in the material we're going to send back to you within about 48 hours. So if there's any further questions, can you please send them through? If not, thank you very much for participating in this webinar today. I hope you have a better idea of the operations of ESS BIZGRANTS, and I'd be a bad salesman, and I'm not a salesman, I'm an accountant, but I'd be a bad person pretending to be a salesman if I didn't put the pricing back up. And please remember, if you are or you wish to be a gold member of ESS BIZGRANTS, then you can ignore what's on that screen because you receive access to ESS BIZGRANTS as part of your subscription to ESS BizTools Gold Package. So thank you very much for being our guests today. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to send an email to peter@essbiztools.com.au, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Goodbye.